Huh? What are you doing in my swamp?
Hello everybody, this is Overboy and I'm going to be doing my ranking for all 9 movies in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise. I've just recently re-reviewed the first 8 movies and watched and reviewed the newest movie that's on Netflix now, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So with the newest edition, I thought it's about time to redo my ranking. So I'm going to go ahead and get going. Coming in at number 9 is Texas Chainsaw Massacre: The Next Generation. Really, the only reason that I like this movie as much as I do is because of Matthew McConaughey. That's really the only thing about the movie that I really liked, is he was really good, and Renee Zellweger was really good in here too. Not one of her best performances by a long shot, but she was still good in it, and it showed her potential as an actress. But personally, really besides that, there's nothing about this movie that I really like. The kills are forgettable. The story is just pretty much a rehash of the others. They steal a whole bunch of scenes from the original movie and stuff. It just isn't very well written or well done. It's not a very good movie. I just don't really like it very much. And Leatherface is very annoying in this movie. He has a really annoying whiny scream that he does. It just gets on my nerves really bad. It isn't a good movie. So Texas Chainsaw Massacre: The Next Generation is number 9, and number 8 is Leatherface: The Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3. This movie is it's not terrible, it's not great, it's fine for what it is. It's pretty much your typical Texas Chainsaw movie where a couple of people get lost in the back roads of Texas and end up encountering Leatherface and his crazy family. Nothing special for the franchise or anything. It doesn't do anything terrible either. It's not a terrible movie. The kills are kind of neutered a little bit because of the MPAA, although the unrated version is pretty good. As far as the kills go, they're fine. Viggo Mortensen from Lord of the Rings, I hope I'm saying his name right. He does a really good job at playing the family member he does in this movie. He's really crazy and everything. Not quite as balls to the walls crazy as Matthew McConaughey was in The Next Generation, but he's still pretty good. And he was one of the highlights of the movie, even though he's kind of too much of a pretty boy to be playing a killer in Leatherface's family. I thought that was kind of weird. And I like the little creepy girl that's in there too. I thought that was kind of cool. But aside from them two, there's nothing really that memorable about this movie, so it's not one of my favorites. So Leatherface: Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3 is number 8, and number 7 is Texas Chainsaw 3D. This is hands down a guilty pleasure movie because it is pretty bad. It's got a lot of flaws in it, but it is still a lot of fun. I always enjoy it every time I watch it. It has some really terrible dialogue, and the acting is not the best, not terrible, but not the best either. And the story has so many things wrong with it. Like the main character is played by Alexandra Daddario, and she's supposed to be this almost 40-year-old woman. She's in her 20s and everything. They could have just set the movie in the 90s and made it make sense, but they decided to set it in modern day and make sure you knew it was in modern day. It just, stuff like that didn't make sense. Some of the dialogue didn't make sense in here, but it had some decent kills. Some were really bad CGI kills as well, but for the most part, I think this one is an alright movie. It's not near quite as terrible as people say it is, but it definitely isn't one of the best in the franchise either. Like I said, it's more just pure guilty pleasure fun than anything. So it's number 7, and number 6 is Leatherface from 2017, last installment before this newest one came out. I actually really like this movie quite a bit. I know a lot of people hate this one because it doesn't feel like a Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie, and I can get that, I guess, but at the same time I absolutely love it because it is different. It's a pretty decent origin story for Leatherface. It's a pretty good story, and seeing seeing all these criminals break out of this prison thing, and you don't know which one's going to be Leatherface, and they kind of have red herrings, but with two of the characters, and the one that you're not supposed to expect be Leatherface ended up being him, which to me kind of made it predictable. I kind of was like, you know, they're trying to make it pretty obvious that the one you don't expect is going to be the one that's going to be him. But it's still a pretty good movie. Not the best in the franchise either. It's kind of just in the middle for me. I like it, but there's better. So Leatherface is number 6, and number 5 is The Texas Chainsaw Massacre: The Beginning. I actually really love this movie. From this one up, I love the rest of them. They're all some of my favorite movies in the franchise and everything. And just because this one's number 6 doesn't mean I think it's bad. It's just I like the other ones more. But this is a really, really great prequel to the remake. It has some really, really good moments where you like see and learn little things that you didn't need to know about for a prequel, and stuff like why the sheriff doesn't have his teeth, or like stuff like that. But it's not just an origin story for just Leatherface. It's kind of an origin story for Sheriff Hoyt and the rest of the family as well, and I like that about it. I thought that was really cool, and it has some really great kills in here, and the characters are some of the better characters in the franchise, to be honest. I actually did kind of like the two brothers and their girlfriends and stuff, so they're better written in this movie, and it's just a really well done prequel, and it's one of the most brutal and dark movies in the franchise because there's literally no survivors. None of the main characters make it out alive, which is very rare. You usually at least have your final girl or at least somebody living at the end of it. In this one, they just do a really great job with the way they did this movie. So I think it's a really good prequel, and R. Lee Ermey just steals the show whenever he's on screen. I just absolutely love this movie. So The Texas Chainsaw Massacre: The Beginning is number 5, and number 4 is The Texas Chainsaw Massacre Remake from 2003. I absolutely love this one as well. I think it's one of the best horror remakes of all time, if not the best horror remake. I might actually say that it is my favorite because I just love this movie. I love how they made it where it kind of has the same story, but everything is just executed differently, and to me it works better than most of these horror remakes do. It has a really great cast. You got the cinematographer that did the first one. He came back to do this one, and it looks really great. Mark Nisfield's directing is great. It has some really good gore. Like I said, it's probably the goriest movie in the franchise. This one in the beginning. Well, the beginning is probably a little bit more gory because it seems to be a little bit more brutal, but it's still really good. I absolutely love this movie and everything. And Jessica Biel is just amazing in here as Erin. She's one of the best final girls in the franchise. Probably my favorite final girl, to be honest. Out of the actually no, there's one other final girl I like more than her, but she's definitely one of the best ones for sure. So The Texas Chainsaw Massacre Remake is number 4, and number 3 is Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2022. This is the newest installment in the franchise that just came out on Netflix yesterday. So I'm not going to talk too awful much about the plot, but this is a really decent movie. I really like this one quite a bit. The story is pretty good and everything. It has a little bit of a unique story to it. The kills are brutal as heck. Some of the most brutal kills in the entire franchise. That's just awesome. And they really did a good job with Leatherface in this movie. Like, he's really crazy in this movie, and they did a good job bringing a unique new take on him, even though he shouldn't really have acted fully the way he did, because he's still a lot different in the original movie. But I still liked what they did to it, and like his motivations for going crazy and killing all these people and stuff. But it's a good enough movie, and it's a pretty entertaining one. So it's number 3, and number 2 is the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre from 1974. I absolutely love this movie. It's one of my favorite horror movies of all time, and I really debated on which one was, if this was going to be number 1 or number 2, but I decided to go ahead and leave it at number 2. It's still a really, really great movie. I love the story and everything. It's just a little simplistic story that was shot on thousands of dollars. It wasn't like a big budget movie, but it became a phenomenon, and I just love this movie. It's a blast, and Leatherface is an iconic and great villain and stuff. I love his family, and Sally Hardesty is a decent enough final girl. I think she was written a lot better in the newest movie that came out this year, that and everything, but I still think that she's still a good character. And Franklin, he is one of the most annoying characters in horror movie history and everything, but I don't think he's quite as bad as everyone else says. I think he was okay. He was one of the ones with the most personality out of all the characters, really. But all in all, I think that Texas Chainsaw Massacre is a really great one, so it's number 2. And my number 1 favorite movie in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise is the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. I just absolutely love this movie. It's such a fun and exciting movie that has a great cast, including the always awesome Bill Moseley as Chop Top. He's just absolutely incredible in this movie. But also you got Starch as the final girl. She's easily my favorite final girl in the franchise and everything, although Erin is pretty close up there too. I think they're both really great characters, but I really think that Starch is a really good character, and Dennis Hopper's character is really great too. I love how his connection to Sally and Franklin kind of give it a little bit of a continuity and stuff, and this is probably the one with the best continuity out of all of them, even though it's a totally different tone than the first one. They still at least kept the continuity pretty well done and everything. But yeah, all in all, I absolutely love the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. It's definitely one of my favorites, and so it's easily my favorite movie in the Texas Chainsaw franchise. So anyway, let me know in the comments what your favorite movies in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise are, and I hope you enjoyed this video, and have a good day, everybody.
Yeah!